Wow, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
This show is amazing. It made me hungry. It made me emotional.
It made you hungry for testicles.
It made me hungry for testicles. For those of you that are unaware, maybe watching online, there was a clip before this that mentioned testicles.
Yep, it's always good to have a little bit of,
No,
you're
but I mean,
right.
we're all hungry for testicles. Did you know that this show would get as elevated emotionally as it does?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, the original, it's National Geographic, which for me, I've been reading the magazine since I was a kid. We had a subscription. It's like the iconic, yellow rectangle. But I think once we started going down, and each episode is a little different, but once it does get personal and everyone's just trying to answer that question of why I am the way I am, and learning that we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, and we have all these like people in our lineage that we can kind of like explain why we are the way we are. I think it's sort of so I would say it was like a mix. I think with someone like Awkwafina, it was very emotional because she was going back to South Korea. It was the first time since she'd been there since her mother passed away when she was 4 years old.
Right.
And then we had a bit of like a bromance with Justin in Italy, so it kind of like ran the gamut a little bit.
Explain to those that haven't seen it about how you start at home with this family dish, a favorite dish, and you trace it back to the origin. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but through genes as well, right?
Yeah, all of it. So it starts out with like a dish that shaped the guest, and it could have been something that was enjoyed during like a special family occasion or a birthday, or for like James Marsden, it was chicken fried steak that his mom was making in Oklahoma City as a single mom just to like feed the kids. Yeah. And then we go to their country of origin, we explore what was going on culturally, politically, socially, and then we kind of break down the dish and the elements while introducing. It's a lot going on.
No,
while introducing to like to different key members of their family, and we meet genealogists and historians, and it's a whole journey.
I love that in that episode, James is in his family's kitchen. His mom is cooking. He says, "Oh, that's the smell that brings me back to my childhood." Yeah. Fast forward to you guys in an outdoor kitchen in Bavaria, and you're making schnitzel.
Right.
And he goes, "It's that smell. It's the same smell."
Totally.
That's when I started weeping.
No, but it's
schnitzel.
Yeah.
I'm crying over schnitzel.
It's okay to cry over food.
Yes, yeah, great.
Because it is an emotional thing, and I mean, like, it's I go like the most emotional episode of all of them is Awkwafina's, and they're all really special for different reasons. But hers actually started out with jjajangmyeon, which is a completely different dish. But we were making this seaweed soup that this woman who had a PhD in fermentation, which they do that in Korea because food is truly healing there, and it's like UNESCO protected. Yeah. And she's making this soup, and Nora, Awkwafina, remembered this smell that her mom, it was the one smell she remembered of her mom when she was around and she was making this soup. Wow. And we learned that in Korean history, women make this for their daughters after they're born because they're depleted of iron, and it's something that's very healing. Right. And it's passed on from mother to daughter. So for her to learn, like, oh my gosh, that smell was literally the soup that my mother was trying to use to heal herself and also to make sure that her daughter was okay. Like it's so much more than the dish. It's like when you look back on it, there's always a story, there's knowledge of history, and it's.
I'm thinking there could be a spin-off called No Smell Like Home. And you smell like your grandparents' boxers or something, and then
I mean, there are a lot weirder things that are making it to streaming services these days, so I feel like we should definitely pitch it. Yeah. It's Nat Geo After Hours. Yeah.
You also don't have to respond to that, but you did a nice job. Look, so talking about parents, this is a cookbook that my wife made after my father passed, and it's of his favorite dishes. And watching this made me think of this recipe for this Eastern European soup that my dad made called struchki. I mean, look at this thing. How can anybody read that? But
was he a physician?
No, he was not a physician. Yeah. I mean, by the way, when I was watching your show, I was thinking of this, and then I'm thinking of my dad's handwriting. And then I'm thinking of him in the kitchen with the apron on. Now I'm crying. It's not even about your show. It's about my dad. You really me up, Anthony.
But that's exactly... No, but genuinely, that's what I want. I want people to watch the show, and like, while I understand that not everyone has a National Geographic historical team that can do 3 to 6 months of research for each episode.
Yeah, I want to hear about that.
But I think it's like it's an opportunity to start having these conversations with people in your family, or like maybe even like the awkward uncle, and like learning those family stories, because we have to pass those things on for our children, for our chosen family, for whoever it is. And sitting around the table is like being raised the way that I was raised. That's when we share those stories. There's a universal thread there, and I think God knows we're living in a time and place where like we need to figure out how we can like relate to each other as opposed to the opposite. Not that there's anything wrong with this country right now, but you know.
Look, it's great if our favorite dish has a lineage back to the origin of country, but what sometimes happens, and I wonder, and you know, my dad made this soup for us every Christmas Eve. No one in the family liked the soup.
And at but it was his dad's soup, and you don't mess with it.
Exactly. Right. At one point, we said to his mom, my grandma, like, Dad's been making struchki, and she goes, well, we don't eat that shit, you know? But there's also something fun about your show. When you go backwards, you find out stuff that maybe isn't so complimentary of the family or of the lineage. How do you process that?
That isn't complimentary of the family?
I mean, there was the one with James where it's like, oh, my great-great-great-grandfather was in prison.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they didn't really know why. And there was a moment there where it's like, what did he do?
Well, because he was like a political activist. The guy was a rebel.
It turned good. Let's talk about the history. I mean, this is actually research. This is...
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, it's not like... I love Queer Eye, but that's like a different unscripted show where I can say whatever I want, and it's a very different editing process. Here, you know, we have every single thing that I say has to be corroborated by 3 independent sources, which is like kind of wild. So we're dealing with places like Germany where, you know, they have the infrastructure and the places that you go to get these documents. They give it to you like within the hour, because the Germans have it all figured out. In Italy, they take like 2 to 3 weeks, but like they'll get it as well. Like they take their time. If you're in Senegal, if you're in where we went with Issa Rae, or if you're in Borneo where we went with Henry Golding, they don't have that. It's oral history. So the team has to go there a few months prior, speak to village elders, and if the 3 village elders are saying the exact same thing, they consider it a fact. If anything is like 80, I've done voiceover for narration on the show and had to go back to the studio after because our showrunner Robin was like, we're not 100% sure, we can't say it, we gotta like go back.
I watched your show and I said, wow, TV studios do have money. Let's be honest. You're in a lot of foreign places, you're eating a lot of food, you're using your hands. Did you mark off a day for traveler's diarrhea for you and the crew? I mean,
So, interestingly...
I knew something would happen.
Interestingly, so, I mean, well, the thing is, like, I'm not, like, if I eat something and it's good, I just keep on eating it. I don't have, like, I've never believed in a spit bucket. I'm just, it's not in my DNA to do that. But I was it didn't happen on set, but I happened to be, we were filming in Italy, and then I had 10 days off before I had to be in South Korea. And I was like, I'm already sort of on that side of the world, so like, why don't I go to Bali for 10 days? Like, what's the worst that could happen? And I went to this market, and there was a beautiful piece of tuna, and I just wanted like a light sear on it, and I picked it out, and they gave it to me, and it was like, also the food in Bali was like, it was exceptional on all fronts. This is not to like, put any like negative beef there, or tuna there. So they serve it to me well done, just draped in a cream sauce. And I ate it, and I felt a little weird, but I was like, I'm sure I'm fine. I ended up with double IVs at the exact same time, the night before my red eye to Seoul. And I was FaceTiming my dad, who's a physician, and he was like, why do you have 2 IVs at the same time? I've never seen this. There's a language barrier. I have nurses there that the hotel sent, because like people get this thing called Bali belly. But the crazy thing that happened, because I'm an optimist at heart, I can eat ghost peppers now, and they don't kill me. I can eat spicy things. I'm a Polish guy. We don't do heat.
You even said that in the Malaysian episode. You're like, I don't really do heat, but now you can do heat.
I can do heat now, which is great, and I hope it lasts for a long time. But I get food poisoning once or twice a year because of the things I put in my mouth. It's par for the course. Enough! You're all grown-ups. There are no children here.
I find your personal history so connected also to this show because of your parents. Explain a little bit to your family history and how it's relevant.
I mean, so I'm, you know, my parents were both Polish. My father was born in Brussels because his family fled there after the war. But I think I'm like 80% Polish. And growing up, that was the first language we spoke at home. We were only allowed to speak Polish, had all the food, cabbage rolls for lunch, the whole thing. And then there was a period of sort of growing up when I was in my teens like the angsty years, like Oasis, Richard Ashcroft, just to paint a picture, where I wanted nothing to do with my identity. I moved to the States, I was in West Virginia, I wanted to assimilate, change my name, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then there came a point when I was in university back in Montreal and I started working at a Polish restaurant. I met like young Polish people who had super Polish names. And I was like, wow, you're actually proud to be who you are. Right. And it's kind of like that whole idea of like, well, like this is in my DNA, so why am I trying to fight it?
Yeah.
And now it's kind of inspired me. Even as a result of the show, I had conversations with my dad. I was like, why do we have so much cabbage in our culture?
Right.
What's the deal with pierogies? Where did those come from? And he's like,
right.
we realize there's so much that we don't know.
Right.
And so it's kind of sparked conversations within my own family.
Okay.
So
you might have answered it, but it's so clear in this show that the guest really sees how important this dish is, how important this food is to their family. Mm-hmm. For you personally, you know, we don't get to do this show with you, with your dish, but why is food so important to you?
Oh, my face just got warm.
Yeah.
Because I think, I don't know. I mean, I think it has to do with, if to quote my therapist, if it's hysterical, it's historical.
Okay.
And growing up in, my parents, I adore them, and they did the best with the tools they were given. But it was a really dysfunctional household. And the one time where we all got along was when we were sitting at the table and gossiping and just like talking shit and having like the best time. And like, that's when everybody had a smile on their face. And so it's personal to me. And I feel like everyone kind of has their own version of that. Like at any single gathering that my parents would have, everyone always ended up in the kitchen. Yeah. And I feel like that's the case with so many people. And so food is there for you when you're depressed, when you're really happy, when you're celebrating life's achievements, when you're celebrating dealing with loss. Sometimes people celebrate loss, but
yeah.
But for me, it's my whole family is just as obsessed, if not more, than I am about food. Like it's in our DNA.
The show's great. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
You kind of do what The Daily Show does, which is you trick us by entertaining us, and then somehow we've learned something and there's a message been presented. So I really loved it. Thank you so much for making it. New episodes of No Taste Like Home on Sundays on National Geographic, and all episodes are streaming now on Disney Plus and Hulu. Antoni Porowski.